The blue hour is the period of time just after sunset or just before sunrise, when the sky and the surroundings shift through various shades of blue and violet. It's when a sense of calm descends upon nature after a long day, offering a moment for tranquility and reflection, or when you can experience how dawn brings light and energy to the mind. The blue hour doesn't have an official definition, but is closely related to twilight, which is the time between sunset and night. This period occurs when the sun is between 0 and 18 degrees below the horizon. This period is further divided into 3 types: civil, nautical, and astronomical twilight, where the sun is respectively between 0 and 6 degrees, 6 and 12 degrees, and 12 and 18 degrees below the horizon. Many artists prefer the period from 4 to 8 degrees below the horizon, as the blue light here is both soft and most prominent. When the sky is clear, the blue hour can be a colorful affair, with the horizon glowing in red, orange, yellow, green and blue tones. Depending on the amount and height of clouds, they can also be illuminated by the sun in spectacular reddish hues. In the Nordic countries, we are known for long sunsets and consequently long blue hours. This also means that the name blue hour isn't necessarily an hour long. The length of the blue hour varies depending on your distance from the equator. The closer you are to the equator, the shorter the blue hour. If you visit Lofoten in Norway at the end of November, the blue hour lasts about 2.5 hours. During the summer though, the sun doesn't set at all in the northern parts of the Nordics, so the blue hour never occurs. And in the southern parts of the Nordics, the sun doesn't reach 18 degrees below the horizon, meaning the blue hour lasts all night. It is also during summer in the mid-latitudes where you can experience the ethereal noctilucent clouds. I usually photograph the blue hour along with the golden hour. The more time you give yourself, the more time you have to prepare and find the optimal composition. Of course, it's an advantage to know the area beforehand if you choose to photograph the blue hour in the morning, so you don't have to find your composition in the dark. When it comes to composition, as I mentioned in my video about getting the best photos during the sunrise or the sunset, it's essential to photograph something specific. A point of interest. This could be a house, a mountain, a tree, or something else that draws the eye. In addition to this, it's also important to keep your edges clean. Since the eye is drawn to bright areas and areas of high contrast, you should avoid these elements along the edge of your image. They will inevitably pull attention away from your point of interest. Examples include dark branches or trees silhouetted against a bright background, patches of snow, houses, streetlights, illuminated windows, or other glowing objects. This doesn't mean you can't have bright areas along the edges of the image, but be aware of the effect on your composition. The blue hour also works very well for cityscapes and scenes with artificial light from, for example, houses and farms. You can achieve very beautiful and almost romantic images when you shoot during the blue hour and the small houses in the landscape or villages are illuminated. The light will also create an extra layer and dynamism in the image. Because the houses and cities are lit, they will also attract extra attention, so it's important to be aware of your composition. Is the city or house your point of interest, or is it the landscape? If you hit the right time, you can achieve a perfect balance between the natural light from the surroundings and the artificial light from the city. This timing varies depending on the conditions. If you're too early, the city lights will appear underwhelming, and if you're too late, there's a risk of overexposing the city lights. However, by shooting in RAW, you can bring out the shadows if you don't hit the optimal time and if the surroundings are a bit too dark. A factor to consider when photographing the blue hour is whether you photograph during sunrise or sunset. On calm mornings, there's a much greater chance of low fog, which is an additional element to aim for. The fog can help create separation between the elements and contours of the landscape, which can otherwise be hard to achieve because of the flat light. On damp and calm evenings, where the temperature falls quickly after sunset and hits the dew point, you can also be lucky to experience ground fog before leaving the blue hour for the silence of the night. If composition is something you struggle with, be sure to get my ebooks on exactly that topic. With minimal text and tons of examples, they're super easy to read. In these ebooks, I cover all the compositional tools, as I call them, not rules, such as how to create depth, work with light and shadow, getting a proper balance, which way to turn your subjects, how to work with visual flow, create scale, what focal length to use, where to place your subjects, and much more. Along with my ebook about light in landscape photography, you can get all three via the link down in the description of the video. The biggest advantage of photographing during the blue hour is the relatively low dynamic range. There's often not a huge difference in the amount of light between the shadows and highlight areas, therefore in most cases you can get away with a single exposure. However, it's still important to use your histogram, as the camera screen can deceive even the most trained eye. Similarly, it's crucial to achieve optimal exposure by exposing to the right, although you can significantly adjust the amount of light during the editing phase if you shoot in RAW. If you have access to zebra stripes, I'd highly recommend using them. I have a video up in the corner explaining how I use them. Just like in all other landscape photography, a good depth of field is desired, where both the foreground and background are in focus. Therefore, in many cases, you'll still photograph with an aperture between f8 and f13, or whatever aperture provides the desired depth of field. Likewise, you want the lowest possible ISO value, often most your base ISO. Base ISO varies depending on the manufacturer and camera model, but can be, for example, ISO 64, ISO 100 or ISO 200. Since the amount of light during the blue hour is relatively low and your other exposure factors remain the same as in the golden hour, you must compensate with a longer shutter speed to get a well-exposed image. As a starting point, I recommend shooting in full manual mode, where you can set the exposure factors yourself. Alternatively, aperture priority mode also works well, and you can vary the exposure via the exposure compensation, which is either a dial on the camera or found in the menu. Due to the longer shutter speed, I also recommend using a tripod in most cases to avoid a shaky image. Additionally, I suggest either a 2-second delay or a shutter release cable to prevent camera shake when the exposure begins. If you're using a tripod, I recommend turning off image stabilization, as this function can actually introduce shake by trying to compensate for vibrations that aren't present. Yes, I also recommend it for mirrorless cameras. Depending on your camera model, this function is either in the lens or the camera body. If it's in the lens, you can turn it off on the side of the lens. If it's in the camera, you can disable it in the menu. For focusing, I generally recommend manual focus during the blue hour because it gets harder for cameras to lock focus during low light and flat scenes. I achieve sharp focus by activating live view and enlarging the image. On most camera models, there's a button with a magnifying glass icon you can use for that. You can get help with manual focus by enabling the focus peaking function in the menu. This highlights sharp areas with a color on the screen, which appears as yellow markings here. Once you have found your focus, simply just enlarge the image again. If you do not hit the exact balance between the artificial and ambient light of your scene and photograph when the ambient light is relatively dark, you may end up overexposing and clipping the artificial light. If this is the case, if it is possible, I would suggest making an exposure for the ambient light, the shadows, and one for the artificial light, the highlights. Alternatively, you can use auto exposure bracketing and combine the photos into an HDR photo afterwards. This is done either by merging them into an HDR file in Camera Raw or Lightroom, or combining them with luminosity masks in Photoshop. Another way to take multiple exposures and do something creative about them is using the so-called time blending technique. This technique combines an image from the golden hour or early blue hour with an image from the late blue hour where the city lights are more prominent. This way you get the best of both worlds, the colorful and dramatic sky from the golden hour and the depth and atmosphere from the blue hour. This type of photography requires patience, as there can be a long time between sunset and the optimal part of the blue hour, and you must not move the camera in the meantime. Here it's important to have a good, sturdy tripod that won't move in the wind, and also be confident in your composition. It is also during the blue hour you can play around with light trails from cars and other traffic. With a long exposure, which you can achieve by closing down the aperture and using a low ISO, and if need be, a neutral density filter, you can capture the light from the cars driving through your scene. You can also capture the light streaks when it's even darker and then blend them into your scene. But just like when you combine a golden hour scene and a blue hour scene, it's important to not move your tripod. These techniques are some I cover in my huge post-processing course, Photoshop for Landscape Photographers. In this course, I introduce you to the programs, cover all my techniques, everything from HDR blending and editing with luminosity masks, overworking with and adding glow and atmosphere. I show how to clean your photos properly, dodge and burn, composite photos, and much more, along with giving you 11 start-to-finish tutorials covering even more techniques. There is a coupon code to get $45 off when enrolling, along with a link down in the description of the video. A polarizing filter can also make a big difference during the blue hour. A polarizing filter prevents polarized light from reaching your sensor. Since polarized light is reflected light in the atmosphere or on the surrounding surfaces, such as lakes and rocks along the waterline, by excluding this light you can really draw attention to your point of interest. Additionally, the colors in the scene become clearer and the sky becomes darker. As seen in this example from the Matterhorn mountain in Switzerland, the mountain and surrounding clouds stand out much more when the polarizing filter is activated. If you want to learn much more about composition and light and editing, be sure to get my ebooks and enroll in my big post-processing course down in the description of the video. This should be enough to get you started on creating some beautiful blue hour images. Check out my video on how to get the best photos during sunrise and sunset here, or my passion project video where I got some gorgeous blue hour photos with a yellow lighthouse.